Is Jim Ratcliffe's 25% takeover of Manchester United a good thing? There are so many questions that United fans have been asking before the takeover, now after the takeover. And I get accused of sort of compromising my opinion on wanting a full sale to being happy with a 25% takeover of the football operations. And what I want to do in this video is address all the questions, all the concerns, all the accusations that come towards me for my opinion changing. And I want to address it all in one video because I think it's needed. It really is, right? And at the end of this video, I've asked you for your questions and opinions on Twitter, and I'm going to answer those, all right? Now, the first thing that sort of gets kind of thrown at me all the time is, says, Sam, why are you compromising? You were talking about a full sale only, supporting the 1958 in what they were doing, and I was, and I still am. I want the Glazers gone out of my club. But do you know what I realised as the takeover was going on? We heard about strategic investment alternatives, their statement originally, which of course didn't say anything about a full sale, but we wanted it to be a full sale. And as the whole process went on, I realized that the Glazers were just greedy beyond belief. I've always known they've been greedy, but the Qataris did not offer enough money. All right? And so many United fans who were sold on the idea of United becoming a state-owned club and the unlimited wealth that came with it, has put them in a position where they just cannot look at anything to do with the Ratcliffe situation with a positive light. Because the Glazers are still there. Because Ratcliffe has enabled them to stay. And I remember my initial reaction when that came out. And I was furious with the concept. I'll be honest, and I think I've said this a couple of times now, throughout the entire process, part of me as a United fan was fundamentally against anything to do with the Qatari takeover. Because of what I've watched and what I've seen growing up as a United fan with the money that came into Chelsea and how that just changed everything for the Premier League. And the same thing happened with City and how I hate Chelsea and City for what they've done there. And I didn't want United to become the latest example of that. So part of me was always compromised about that concept of a takeover. And now I'm compromised because am I happy about a 25% takeover? No. Do I think it's the best case scenario from the options that we were presented towards the end? Yes. Was that something that I would have entertained at the start when Ratcliffe came in with a 69% offer? No. But at that time, that was only buying out the Class B shares. And he would have got legal cases against them from all the Class A shareholders on the New York Stock Exchange. So he couldn't do that. Because the Glazers created such a convoluted and complicated system and setup that was only there to feed themselves. This whole process has been exhausting. And like people shouting, saying Ratcliffe is just another Glazer. Again, I feel that opinion comes from people who are just upset and angry that United didn't get taken over by the Qatari bid. That United didn't just all of a sudden have unlimited wealth and we can go and sign Mbappe and we can go and build a stadium worth 3 billion. We can do everything you can possibly want to do in a fantasy land. And there's no restrictions on it. You've seen the success that's gone at City and you think, I want a slice of that pie. The only way that could possibly happen is if United become a state-owned club. Which I disagree with, by the way. I don't think United have ever needed a sugar daddy. Just, look, City were losing 8-1 to bloody Middlesbrough before the Sheikh came in. Chelsea were just an irrelevance. Like a zit. That's what Chelsea were. All of a sudden, money comes in. Great success. I want success back at our club. I'm not happy the fact that the Glazers have managed to find a situation where they have given all responsibility away for the football operations of our club and they can just sit there in the background and just make more money. But I am happy about the fact that Ineos, from this point onwards, are going to be in charge of every football decision at our club. No longer will a transfer go through Joel Glazer's email inbox. He'll have no input on it. And I will be happy at that. Now, do I think that the Ratcliffe takeover is actually going to bring real change? I think this is a very fair and justified concern from every single United fan, and I share that concern. But I do think he can bring that change. I think, change is literally happening, right? people accusing Ratcliffe of being another Glazer. I mean, he's quite literally putting $200 million from his own personal bank account into our football club. He's getting more shares as a consequence. His ownership will go from 25 to 29%. But the Glazers have never done that. Anything they have ever done has been borrowed from somebody else and leveraged against our club. So immediately he's not a Glazer. And immediately he's holding face-to-face meetings at Old Trafford. Is it enough? But no, but is it a start? You're damn right it's a start. And it feels like a lot of people have just sold themselves so much in the idea of a Qatari takeover that the concept of gradual steps now, rather than a 0 to 100, Glazer's gone, Sheikh Jassim is in, brilliant. Any concept of a staggered takeover, and I genuinely do feel that Ratcliffe and Ineos will eventually buy out the Glazers. Now, that might be the naively optimistic part of me, and I can understand if you don't agree with that. But looking at what's written into the SEC filing, looking what is written into all the documentation, it's all geared towards Ratcliffe and Ineos having either the first say if somebody else comes in, or Ratcliffe eventually having the pathway to buying the Glazers out. There is quite literally change coming. By the end of January, Ratcliffe's takeover would have been ratified by the Premier League. He will officially own 25% of the club. Ineos will officially be in control of all football operations. Now, Richard Arnold is already gone. John Murtough will follow. I would be so surprised if he has any position inside this new Ineos setup. And we will be getting Jean-Claude Blanc announced as a new CEO. We will be getting Dave Brailsford announced as, I would imagine, sort of a chairman position. And we will be getting in, hopefully, a sporting director and a head of recruitment. Literal changes happening to the entire football operation. And that has been the straitjacket for success at our club. Because those at the top of the football operation at Manchester United were being puppeteered by commercial interest, by the Glazers. Now, there's going to be a degree of separation from now on. Is it enough? No. Is it a step in the right direction? Yes. And I think that's where my opinion is going to always clash with other people, because not everybody, by the way, but just certain people, which is kind of why I'm doing this video, to address all of this. I believe in the overall concept of this staggered takeover, and I feel this is just for the fact that the Glazers, and I'm telling you, just think about this, they've given up 100% control of all football operations for only 25% ownership of the entire club. That's how little they care about the football operations. All their eyes, focus and attention goes on the coffers, goes on the revenue that the club can make and how much they can take out, which I can't take anything else out, by the way, because dividends are banned for 18 months, 3 years? So what I'm going to do now is take a look at some of the questions that you sent me, all right? This is a question that I put out on Twitter, and I think it's fair to take your opinions in on this as well, right? So you've got Natalie, you're asking what it means for the United women's team. I don't know what it means for the women's team. Truth be told, I think specific questions like that, we won't know until Ratcliffe's takeover is actually complete and he actually gives the vision of the club. Anything to do with what style of football we're going to bring, and they're kind of mute points or mute questions at this point in time until it's fully ratified. Now, Cobby Senior, you're saying a minority shareholder keeping the Glazers and the debt, that's the problem and should be the end of every discussion about this man. So what would you rather we did? We just sat there as a club and just stagnated for another, what, year? 18 months? Until the Glazers found someone dumb enough to overpay enough that they went, okay, good. So we just get stuck in the mud further. Now, the debt is a real question, a fair question. And I hope we get some clarity on it. But given the options that we had, you're damn right I'm going to be happy about the one that we have, rather than the concept of that none of this has happened and that Ten Hag is failing and that the Glazers still own 100% of our club. There would be no way out. It would just be repeating the cycle. Alex, you're asking here about Ineos and whether I think that they are going to streamline things at United. They absolutely are going to streamline everything, dude. from contracts to staff at our club. Everything is going to get scrutinized to the nth degree in a way that it just hasn't been before. Right. Moxie Nightmare saying, what style of football will United represent? As I said, dude, I think these are pointless questions. These are questions for further down the line. We're talking about operationally. We're talking about the concept of the actual takeover, the compromises, not the style of football just yet. And about me saying, what does it mean for the women's side of things? I already answered that question earlier. Point blank. You're saying, is Ten Hag still going to have a say in player signings after the takeover is complete? Ten Hag should have the ability as a manager to veto a transfer if he doesn't want. Just that's pretty standard. He should only be involved in the first 10% and last 10% of a transfer. Saying what profiles he wants, not individuals, but saying what profiles he wants. Then the recruitment department does their job, and then Ten Hag can sign off on those signings at the very end. Shouldn't be involved in any other part of it. Rapid, you're saying, do you think Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe are willing to give Ten Hag one last chance next season? I think that very much depends on what Ten Hag does between now and the end of the season. I think Carl Anker was fair in saying that this is pretty much Ten Hag as sort of an interim manager. He's got to prove himself. And it might be a weird thing to say if anybody didn't catch that live show, but Carl Anker was effectively saying, look, because Ineos are coming in and are so focused on all the operational structural changes, it means they don't have time to really look at what Ten Hag is doing and replacing him. That's a whole concept unto itself. So until they get everything done behind the scenes there, they can't really put that focus on the concept of replacing Ten Hag. Hence why I think the idea of saying he's an interim manager, I think, is pretty befitting. GK, how's 25% a takeover? It's a minority investment and a seventh Glazer. It's an absolute joke how fans have flipped to try and justify the shite show of a deal. Has he taken over every single aspect of the football operation? Yes. That is why it is a takeover. I don't know why people are struggling so much to understand that concept. Does it leave the Glazers in majority control of our overall football club? Yes, it does. How much are they going to impact the decisions of the football team? They're not. They're now minority investors in Manchester United. They may be majority as a football team. They may be majority investors in the club itself, but they are minority investors in our football team. The majority say now goes towards Ineos and Ratcliffe. And that is something that I am happy about. Maybe other people aren't. Man United fan club, you cheated. I'm only going to answer your first question. What is the plan for January? You're seeing it. There really isn't one. I can't answer the rest of them because I only asked one question each. But look, my honest opinion on this Ratcliffe takeover, I've tried to explain it in this video. You might disagree with it, but hey, that's what opinions are. Some people agree with them, some people don't. That's why we have this conversation here as a community. I am happy that Ineos are in control of our football operations. I do genuinely think that better times are ahead at our football club because of Ratcliffe and Ineos compared to what was before. Do I have 100% belief that this is all going to go smoothly and swimmingly? No, I don't. And I'm fearful of what the Glazers might try. But I think we're in a better position than where we were in November last year. And I'm optimistic about the future. But I still have major concerns. And I think you do too. And I think we all should have those concerns. And as a fan base, scrutinise everything to do with Ratcliffe and Ineos the whole way through, because we've been burnt so much as a fan base that Ineos deserve that scrutiny. And until they prove that they are different to the Glazers, they will get it. And as they should.